All right, the Brain Supreme podcast. Look at this handsome man in this great T-shirt he just put on.
Love it.
Edmund Knighton. Edmund is a scholar of the Law of One, Ra, and also Rudolf Steiner. So we have a lot of friends in common. Big shout out to Jared Picard for introducing us, lining this up while you're in town.
Yeah.
I'm so head down in my business that I didn't know anything about you. And I was like, oh God, I've been doing a deep dive.
Most people don't.
Yeah, no. Well, that's going to change quick, I have a feeling. So a lot of the podcasts you've been on, which have been exceptional, both podcasts with Paul Chek. You just came from doing another podcast with our mutual friend, Kyle Kingsbury. But what I want to do is I want to simplify it a little bit, and then I want to get into your practical spiritual practices. So I want to do like a little bit more of a 101 on Ra and Steiner and you. Okay. And then I like in this, just my training as a novelist as well. Like I like to get practical applications from really smart people. Okay. So we probably won't go as high conceptually as you do with like the super erudite folks like Chek and the subjects that you're studied in, because I'm not as studied. Perfect. But let's get into like spiritual practices and kind of see what you're doing in your life and how you're navigating, because you're a fascinating guy. So I want to know, to begin with, like basically who you are, what you teach, and then let's bring the part about your work with Jared immediately too. So like in the very beginning of the podcast, people know like what you do and how they can kind of be attached to it.
Yeah, sure. Okay, so Jared Picard and I do an online program called...
Just a quick, Jared is in my men's group. I've mentioned his name before as probably the single best body care product line in the world, where he grows and extracts every single ingredient himself in his farm. And he's literally... And you're talking to a guy like, home birth, breastfed, farmer's market, raw milk, like I'm all of it. And he literally blows me away. Like he's got a story behind every ingredient. In fact, that's like one of the jokes we have with him now. Like when he brings food to men's group, there's always a story. Yeah, of course. And so I sent him the clip from Portlandia. Have you ever seen that, the famous chicken one? No. Where they go to a restaurant to order chicken, and before you know it, they're like at the chicken farm. They're making sure the chicken's okay. They're meeting the guru that grew the chicken and blah, blah, blah. All right, so go on.
You already know how beautiful a soul he is. And yes, I'll just say that his body care is second to none.
Sensational.
I was up in Aspen. I was up at the Maroon Bells, and I got seriously, not just sunburned, but stupidly, I put on this sunblock. Ooh. And I forgot that Neutrogena got bought out, and so I started getting horrible stuff. And it was actually, if you ever saw my first podcast with Paul Chek, my face was bright red.
I did kind of notice that a little bit, yeah.
I was in so much pain. Oh, wow. That was the first podcast I think I ever did.
Oh, wow.
And Jared gave me his serum.
Summer solstice?
Yeah, and I had tried everything up to that point. And actually, the stuff that was supposed to work burned me even worse. And his was the only stuff that I could use. And now it's the only stuff I use. Yeah. It's magic.
Yeah, it's great. Be Here Farm and Nature?
Yeah, Be Here Farm and Nature.
We'll post something to it immediately.
Yeah, so his stuff is absolutely incredible because his whole heart and soul is in it. Yeah. And my work with him online is absolutely incredible. It's the same way. He's just such a soulful guy. He's so sweet and funny and earnest. He always is beginner's mind about whatever thing spiritual. And so you were saying, we'll drop into some really practical exercises, and he draws that kind of thing out of me. And he said, let's do something together online. And I'd never done something like that, so I was scared. And then we started talking about it. We ended up talking for hundreds of hours about what we might do together. And we ended up coming up with this program that it's Steiner's basis for how to...
real quick pause right there.
Yeah.
Give us the 3-minute breakdown on Rudolf Steiner, when he lived, what he did. Okay. I mean, my kids went to a Waldorf school for a short time, which is something I want to get into because it's when Waldorf lost their mind, unfortunately. Yeah. During COVID. Sure. Which is going to be an interesting topic. But just kind of lead our audience real quick into Rudolf Steiner and kind of the quick 101 on him.
Okay. The quick 101 on Steiner. Woo!
Yeah, right.
1861 to 1925. he had his first spiritual experience when he was a young boy in the railroad station with his father. He saw some woman come in to the door and beseech him, wanted something from him, and then she walked out. And then he found out later that his aunt had died.
Oh.
And so he recognized very early on that something is happening for me that's not happening for others. But even as a young child, his father and mother were very free thinkers. They weren't Christian. And so he learned in a very scientific way how to navigate.
Yeah.
And so he was a scientific scholar, and he ended up editing Goethe's work, his life's work.
Oh, wow, his life's work.
Yeah, for 10 years. He actually took that over as a karmic pattern from Carl Julius Schroer, who, it's interesting, Steiner hasn't been the first time that he's done that. There are rumors that he did that as Aristotle for Plato's work because Plato couldn't quite bring it down to the ground, but that would be another podcast.
Oh, that would involve some time travel aspects.
That would involve some reincarnation aspects.
Yeah.
And that's the basis of what he brought.
I'm sorry, hold on. You I think like a novelist still, you think like a academic. So I just meant like real like early 19th century mystic who created the Waldorf education system and biodynamics and so on. Okay, now we can stay back to the course. I don't want to go too far from the course.
You don't want to go too far, okay.
Sorry.
So he created not only biodynamic farming is an extension really in the deepest sense of what organics turned out to be.
Yeah.
It's still the real farming, the ancient farming practices where you're connected. And Waldorf education was one of the first times that boys and girls were brought together, that he chose his own teachers, that he chose the curriculum and just had to do a few kind of testing things in order to have a state school, which was pretty amazing. So he was groundbreaking in his capacity for developmental education for the human being and for the process of growing food. Those were probably the two biggest things he's known for.
Yeah. He's also got a couple buildings on the World Heritage Site that he designed, having not even been an architect, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a really deep, early 19th century mystic and completely read the tea leaves on the Nazis.
He's not a mystic.
Not a mystic. Oh,
nope.
sorry.
He is definitely not a mystic, and he would not appreciate you saying that.
Oh, well, good to know.
Yeah. He was a scientist, and he added the moniker of spiritual scientist to it to say that you can enter the spiritual world actually mathematically.
Oh, well.
And so we won't go there.
Cool.
Because I know you don't want to.
No, we might. I just wanted to get like the broad strokes on. So now the coursework, how you're integrating this in the coursework with Jared and the curriculum they're creating?
Yeah. Well, I would say I've been a student of his since I really had a dream with him being my teacher about 40 years ago. And it was clear to me that what he had to offer is something that I would bring into the world and certainly bring in through the body through exercises. And so I've been practicing that as a gym teacher for most of my life with all ages to help people come consciously into their bodies through spiritual exercises. And that's probably my greatest connection to him and his work. Yeah.
And now specifically, what's the course you're teaching? Kind of what's
this course in specific is Steiner wrote a dissertation, and it was called The Philosophy of Thinking. And he wrote it after he was editing Goethe's work and recognized that Goethe stopped short at the spiritual world, that he didn't go further. And Steiner recognized that it's his task to take Goethe's thinking and work, and that became the basis of Waldorf education, is actually Goethe's work.
Oh,
Most
really?
people don't know that.
No, I didn't know that.
And so then he took that into how might you take steps into very clear thinking, which will be like a guardian for you, protect you from all of the heinous and half ill-used spiritual practices that are everywhere on the net today.
Yeah.
And so part of what this course is to start with the development of actual thinking from 3 metacognitive levels, not just the thinking that we think we're doing. This is just parroting, but true thinking. And to do exercises where you can push against these exercises and get a real experience of it. So this is not some erudite practice that we're doing. We're training these things with those students. They're coming and bringing the results, the fruits of their practice. They're discussing them with me and with each other, and then they're deepening the practices. Thinking is the first one. You're activating your will or your behavior is another one, being more conscious of both of those things. Then being able to look at three different aspects of your feeling life. How is it that you can have equanimity in all things? How can you be positive without spiritually bypassing? And then how can you harmonize all of those things together? All of these, the thinking aspect, your actions in the world, and how you feel. And this was the big thing that he wanted to help people understand is those are the three big aspects of who we are. And we understand it in these days now as cognition, affect, and volition. But really, it's just thinking, feeling, and willing for him.
Oh, okay. And then how long is the program run? How long is the course?
It's 12 weeks, and we tackle each one of these series of exercises for 2 weeks at a time.
Okay.
So we do all 6 of them throughout the course.
Wow.
Yeah.
And is it it's live, so you got to join for like a segment and with a group of students and
yeah,
so
it's on Thursday evenings. We usually spend an hour and a half, but then we're happy to stay later if people have questions.
But it doesn't roll like there's a March and then there's a spring semester, a fall semester.
Yeah, it's February, March, April.
Oh, so one's come back in February.
Yeah,
great. Okay,
yeah,
so this is going to come out end of December, something like that. So
yeah,
great.
Oh, good.
So there'll be time.
So you could just go on to Be Here Farm and Nature for Jared Picard, and then just say, tell me about this.
Yeah, Jared leads really inspired retreats too, these kind of slow food retreats. And I know they've done one with river trips, and they do one in Italy and so forth. So he does it.
In fact, I was telling you about the Alec Zeck thing that we did. We did a podcast where Alec had a live audience, and that was at the last retreat that he did. Jared led.
Yeah, that was at Cal's place.
That was at Cal's place.
Spacewood. Yeah,
and it was just a mind blowing. Jared is a master of ceremonies, a master of caring for people.
Yeah, I listened to the podcast that you did with Evan there as well.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Right,
that's right.
Mm-hmm. And now so now we got that set, and we'll link to that in the show notes, which is good. Because I was like to have like the connotation, like, okay, like now I know what I'm listening for, and let me see how brilliant this guy, how I align with him and so forth. And whether let's fill the class up. Okay, so now you've gone into your personal history a lot, which is quite fascinating, but let's do like a version of your origin story, because it's pretty outrageous and really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
What in particular?
Well, no, like just you had basically had 8 parents. You had just run us through your your story, and then you were on the farm eating raw watermelon for 6 months.
Yeah.
At New College and so forth. Just kind of go through your story and like what led up to what put you in the seat right here.
Cool.
And now.
Yeah. So I did have lots of parents and lots of siblings, step siblings, half siblings, full blood siblings.
Were you where were you growing up?
I was born in Cincinnati, and we moved around Louisville, Kentucky, and Philadelphia, and Rhode Island, and Long Island, and every time there was a new marriage, we found a new place to
be. Right.
Yeah.
What level of where were you kind of in the economic stratosphere through all this ups and downs?
Let's see. I call him my dad, and I still think he's my main dad. I just didn't know that he was my dad, or not my dad at the point, so that's confusing.
Yeah.
He turned out to be my mom's first husband. So I lived with him in the beginning, and I would say, upper middle class. We had a English Tudor style mansion. We went to private schools, and so I had that kind of life. And then I went to.
So you were blue blood traumatized.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Or blue blood dysfunctional.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest challenges for me during that point in my life was I didn't really see my mom for about 5 years, from age 5 to 10, because they had a pretty contentious situation. They had both then married other people. She was in another state, and that was horrible for me. And I actually didn't recognize. I thought this was my full blood brother and sister. They turned out to be, half.
Yeah.
And my dad, who I thought was my dad, wasn't my dad. And so I spent a lot of years crying.
Yeah.
And feeling like I was, didn't belong to this family. And there was a way in which I didn't. And then there's another way, now that I'm much older, how I'm sort of coming back around to the fact that was a really very special family. And it's interesting how your perception can change around, wow, I was completely traumatized. Wow, I was completely blessed.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you come out of victim consciousness and you realize how your past, for whatever it's worth, is informing on who you are now.
Yeah.
And you're doing great shit in the world now. So it's all made sense.
It totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
In some way. Okay. So now, So how do you do through high school? It seems like you're really smart and you have it like there's some level of intellectual.
Yeah, I was a good student.
Yeah, okay.
I was in the advanced classes, and we moved actually to go to a public high school that was the best high school in the area, so that I could study Hebrew.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard you mention that one parent's Jewish, one parent was.
Yeah, my dad was Christian. He's still alive. He's late 80s and still setting world records as a swimmer.
Really?
Yeah. And my mom has passed, but she converted to Judaism because she was homeless for a time, and a Jewish couple took her in, and she learned their ways, and she felt very connected to Judaism. And so, of course, when you're Jewish with a mother, then you're Jewish.
Yes.
And so I ended up being president of a Jewish fraternity, and lived in an Orthodox household.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So,
wow. So you keep kosher and so forth for a time period, or?
Oh, yeah.
Or the household did?
The household definitely did.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was my anyway.
Did you have bar mitzvah?
I did not.
You did? Because this was after the bar mitzvah age traditionally?
Yeah. It was right about there, but it was also that my dad was Christian.
Yes.
And so he was not too keen on Jews. Or at least the fact that, me being in a Jewish household, now that I went to live with my mom.
Your dad, who wasn't your dad.
Yes.
Oh, boy, wow.
And so he had me baptized.
Oh, okay.
I wasn't apparently, at birth, but he had me baptized then at that point in order to, I guess, make sure that I would be saved or whatever it was. And so you can see the little bit of tension there between not just religiously, but in all ways. There's a lot of tension and a lot of unrequited love. It was, at some point I might write a story about that because he still loves her and misses her.
Yeah, it's
a beautiful thing, and it's sad. Yeah, so that's kind of the upbringing I had through the teen years.
So you obviously do well enough, and then you get into New College?
Yeah, New College is a tiny little school in South Florida, in Sarasota, and it's at that point it probably still is one of the most selective schools. You have to do extremely well on your SATs. I don't even know if they have SATs.
They
anymore.
do, but it's on a 2400 scale now. Not because there's another 800 component.
I see.
So like back in our day, it was the 1600. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. How'd you do?
I did well.
How'd you do?
I did well.
What's the number? We all remember the number.
Nope. Not going to do that.
Oh,
not going to do it. I did well enough to get into a most selective school.
I got 1050, but I was a hell of a linebacker, so I still got into Northwestern.
I was not a linebacker.
Right.
I was a tennis player.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
Were you decent? Did you play on your high school team?
I played for seed, yeah. So I played for seed singles. But, I mean, I wasn't a great tennis player.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the game.
Yeah.
I still love the game.
Yeah.
But
all right, so obviously, you're a good student. You did well on your SATs. You got in a new school and so forth.
Yep. Yeah. And I loved philosophy, so I started out in philosophy, and then I went into psychology, and then I ended up going into English literature and got a degree in English literature, and I became an English teacher for a while after I was a big person.
Wow.
Yeah.
But you went off the rails for a while you were in college,
yeah, before
right?
I became an English and a dissertation a college professor of clinical psych in the doctoral level. I went way off the rails. I think I was just sort of figuring out how to process all of the things that had happened to me when I was a little one.
Yeah, I'll say.
The big break came from a private school in a very Hyde Park, if you know Cincinnati, is a very nice area to live in.
Isn't every area named Hyde Park a very nice area?
I think so.
Is there any slum in the world called Hyde Park?
Right. I live in the tenement in Hyde Park. Oh. So what planet is that?
So your net worth is only $10 million. I see. That's the problem.
That's right. Right. So I went from that to kind of an inner city school where I got really beat up bad the first day of school.
Oh, really?
Well, I was just one of those pretty boys coming into middle school from some other state.
Was this in Kentucky?
No, that was in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
It was in Roxborough, Manayunk, if you know that area.
Well, I just know Philly's like it's. My grandparents lived in Philly, and we'd go in, and then my mom was born in Philly, and like back in the 70s and 80s, like driving into Philly, like it was rough.
It was rough.
Yeah.
So I got beat up, and so when I was 9, my mom went out. She got a babysitter. The guy came over. He brought a gallon of wine, a whole bunch of weed. His girlfriend, a little trash can of huffing, which is a big thing back then.
Cool, which is great. Helped you get over the trauma when you were a 9-year-old,
right? So we got completely wasted,
Right.
and then he threw me into a swimming pool, and I was just sort of like, So that was my introduction to altered states of consciousness.
That's so crazy.
And I've still never told my mom. Thank God she's dead now.
Oh, my God.
But because it was her employee, it was her head cook, because she ran a bar, restaurant, apartment complex, 500-member apartment complex. And so she thought that he would take care of me. Well, he took care of me.
Wow.
So it was a big shift, and you could see then for the next several years of my life, I was a bit of a hoodlum. I stayed smart enough to do extremely well in school. And that kind of prepared me for New College, because just pretty much most folks were pretty effed up for, just coming into philosophy class on acid and having really deep discussions with the professor, and then, mentally overpowering him. And I just thought, well, this is some way to be in the world. I'm not sure I like the intellectual sharpness that's happening here. It doesn't actually feel good to me. It doesn't feel safe. And I don't know that. I think something's missing here in intelligence for me. And not everybody was like that, but somehow I think
you literally attended class on acid?
Yeah.
How often?
Well, the interesting thing is there's a state-dependent situation where once you do it enough, if you're learning everything on acid, then you need to take your exams on acid as well.
Wow.
In order, because otherwise you're a completely different person coming into that situation. So there's a kind of a consciousness that takes place, as you probably know, through LSD use or through MDMA or through, PCP. That was also, a pretty prevalent situation there. Basically, everything was, because these were highly experimental individuals, super brilliant, and
did a lot of kind of some similar family dynamics, probably from what you were. I mean, within their own way. A lot of fucked up rich kids kind of school?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily, because I was...
Because we're talking like less than 0 times. Like we're talking mid-late 80s, right?
Yeah. Mid to late 80s. And so I was in a situation where you could pay for your own schooling for $6,700 at that point. So I paid for my own schooling.
Oh, wow.
And so kids were all over the educational and not educational, the economic spectrum, and social spectrum.
Okay.
Yeah, which was cool, because there was a nice, that helps. Nice large group of that. But there were only like 400 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was this very tiny school.
Yeah.
So most people knew each other. It was just like a great big family. Except for the ones who kept to themselves, just went straight back to their room and were clearly on a path.
Right. Right. What was your undergraduate major first?
Well, it's interesting. I'm a bit of a renegade. And so at New College, you can design your own curriculum. So I said, I'm not taking anybody else's major. I'm designing my own curriculum. So I designed something in architecture first.
Really?
And all you have to do, so there was a 1-to-7 PhD to student ratio. So that's how small the classes could be.
Yeah.
And all you had to do was let's say you were a professor, I just had to get your approval to work with you one-on-one to do a class together.
Wow.
And so I designed my own classes in the first year, and they were kind of like, well, people don't come in and do that. I said, well, I am.
Wow.
And so I did that, but I also did a lot of other things that were extracurricular, if you will. And the extracurricular things got me kicked out. I got unsatted. It's a short for unsatisfactory. There were no grades. So there were only written evaluations. And at the end of the year, you had to have a certain number of SATs and unsats. And I had one more unsat than I needed. But they also knew I was a drug dealer, and there were other reasons not to have me around.
What drugs were you dealing on campus?
Well, LSD, MDMA, not weed, cocaine. Yeah.
So you were, what year? 80 what?
85.
So dangerous.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I mean, those
would have put me in prison for many years.
Yeah.
For many years.
And I don't know about...
I was super stupid.
I don't know about MDMA and LSD back then, but you could get in a lot of trouble with cocaine. Like you could get like...
all of them.
I mean, that's the drug that people commit a lot of crimes over and so forth.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have an experimental consciousness, so my mind always seemed to come over the medicine, and if I needed to come in, I have the mental power to do that.
Yeah.
So I guess I'm blessed that way, and I don't have an addictive personality.
Which is so interesting because I heard you talk about this on the other podcasts, but so Gabor Mate, you know who he is, right?
I do.
Yeah, of course you do. So just for the honest, Gabor Mate is a Argentinian sociologist, I believe, who is a Holocaust survivor, and he did the early studies in the 70s on Vietnam veterans returning, and they basically discovered this incredible correlation to they were studying Vietnam vets returning from Vietnam who had heroin addictions, and something like 90% of the GIs returning from Vietnam, GIs are the grunt soldiers, had heroin addictions, but only 10% of them stayed addicted to heroin when they came back to the United States. And that 10% was all related to early childhood trauma between birth and 7 or 10 years old.
High ACE scores,
What's fascinating about your life story is like you had significant early childhood trauma, but without the brain wiring to turn you towards addiction.
Right.
Which has got to be, in your understanding of the soul and the incarnation of the soul and soul's purpose, some of the things we'll get into, like, it's got to relate to that.
Yeah.
Because you had all the telltale markers of being a fucking, a gutter drunk. I mean,
I was homeless for months.
Yeah, but you said, but you had an experimental personality, you had a questing personality, you were trying to make sense of all these disparate energies and lack of love and love here, no love there, sorting things out as a young man, but like you didn't have that wiring to like just start, go straight to heroin and not stop till you're dead.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Zero.
Where does that come from? Where does that delineation, you think? Is that the soul's path? Because like, why is somebody who had your level of earlyhood childhood trauma going to become a heroin addict and either die or struggle with addiction their whole life, versus like you could spend 3 years of your life dabbling in this whole drug culture and then just pop right out of it and make a choice not to be?
Yeah. Well, that's the question of the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I hear you ask that, the first thing that comes to me is my relationship to the spiritual world from basically a toddler, an infant. From the time I could walk, I'd go out and be under the stars, like just a little tiny guy at night, just get out of my bed and go and commune with my friends.
You called me friends? Wow.
Yeah. So
you had a calling.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And so what that gave me was the capacity to actually look back on the planet from that starry place. It's like going to the house of your friends and to watch this little guy go through, watching these other people go through their shenanigans, trying to figure out how to love. They're trying to figure out what happens when you can't love. And then all the sort of nuclear fallout that happens from the family when that happens. And so I went through most of that time in a witness consciousness.
I was just going to ask you, what you're describing, it sounds to me like the classic Buddhist witness consciousness. You're not your thought, you're the witness to your thought. So even when you were dealing drugs,
getting
high
beat
as
up,
a kite, you could still have that objectification of, oh, this is just my body or my current
not
thought
objectification,
process.
But objectivity, a kind of a warm objectivity of caring.
Yeah.
And it's I would describe it as an intimate distance.
You know something funny about this, where it's just in people? So I was like 1 or 2 years out of college football. It was 1995 or 96. I don't know. I was still a big, strong dude. And I'm walking across the street in New York City, and I walk into a scene where like 3 guys from it's Christmas time, and 3 guys from Staten Island were like attacking a taxi, drunk, all kinds of stupid. And there was this little African driver and this old woman in the back seat who's scared shitless. And the African driver pops out, and these guys are about to like light this guy up. So I'm like, oh fuck. So I run in there, and I start fighting these three guys. Well, and I remember there was a time where I had the one guy pegged against the car, and I was about to light him up, and I just didn't do it. It was so weird. I ended up just throwing him or something like that.
Yeah.
But it was like, I remember thinking, even in that moment, I was like, some part of me was just witnessing it.
Yeah.
Like, just stop the fight. You don't need to break it's crazy how that is.
Yeah. There's something in us that I think is always able to do that no matter how horrendous the situation is. There's a beautiful story, an experience that an individual had. And I won't go into the story, but the long and the short of it is this guy was super bright. He was an attorney who spoke more than one language, and he was a Jew. And so the Gestapo came and they lined all of his 5 kids up against the wall and his wife, and right in front of him, they were about to take him. And then somebody said that he speaks German as well as another, and you'll be our interpreter. So now you get to watch us kill your family. And in the moment when he watched his family being shot, all of his 5 children and his wife, he recognized, and he said, I had a choice to make in that moment. I could love these individuals because I understood what was happening, or I could live in either fear or hatred. I could succumb to the worst possible challenges of that situation. And I chose love. And he said it was actually a very easy decision, quite frankly. And then the rest of the story takes you into what he was able to do in the concentration camp as a result of that, and what happened actually to his physical body in terms of, I don't want to give it away because it's in George Ritchie's, I think it's Search for Tomorrow or something like that. Dr. Ritchie was a physician who came when the liberation took place. And he met this guy, and he swore that he must have been in there for the whole time, or actually the reverse. He swore that he must have come new because he looked fresh as a daisy.
Right.
And I won't say any more.
Yeah,
but it's worth looking into.
That's fascinating. Okay, so
but that's the witness consciousness, which is available at any time and can be stabilized as a part of who we are.
Do you think that's part of like incarnation? Like some people in this life are just meant to have more of it than it's like the distance is more proximal for certain people, like your actions and your thoughts versus the distance between your actions. Like there's something to whichever incarnation you're on.
Yeah, that moment when you're about to maybe crush that guy's face.
Yeah.
Maybe do something that may have caused brain damage.
Right.
And then there's a part of you that recognizes this is a karmic entanglement if I take this further.
Yeah.
And I wish to remain free.
So when I taught yoga, there was a really great yoga scholar for Anusara named Douglas Brooks, I believe. He taught at Rochester, way up in upstate New York. He's one of the foremost Sanskrit and Hindu scholars. And he would come in and pepper the Anusara teacher training program with some philosophy. And I never forgot this, and I teach this to my kids, and the word is samskara. And samskara literally means like a stain, like oh, I got a samskara on my shirt. But the point of a well-realized adult life is to reduce the samskara, the stains that you inherited in this incarnation, and to do as little as possible to acquire new stains. So I talk to my kids about this all the time, about this notion of samskara, like part of a well-realized life is don't acquire new stains. And when you see when you see that, even if there's a roadside accident and there could be something terrible, like just look straight ahead and say a prayer. Like you don't need the samskara, you don't need the stain, Yeah. So, it's like, don't do stuff that stains up your brain.
Yeah, and I mean it's interesting if you look at the raw material, the raw contact. This picture that Ra gives is that when Jesus was a little kid, he got pissed at this friend of his and touched him and murdered him. Basically, the power that came out of him killed him, and so talk about a stain. He recognized in that moment.
This is a story that Ra gives about Jesus.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so that is
that recorded? I don't mean to cut you off, but is that recorded anywhere else outside of the Ra teachings?
I haven't found it. So I'm just putting it out there as this is one possibility, right? But even looking at it, even if it didn't happen, it wouldn't make much sense that it didn't happen because the veracity of that material is pretty strong. but it's possible that it did or didn't. But the common sense part of it is when that individual went to basically sacrifice himself in order to resurrect what's called his phantom body, to give us that opportunity to do that for ourselves. He said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do.
Right.
That was making restitution for this early childhood action because he didn't know what he was doing. And so forgiving because we don't know what we do was an act of absolving or restitution for that. And so it's not just that we want to avoid the stains, we want to figure out how do we make restitution while we're still embodied, so we don't have to look back without a body and go, well, I guess we got to navigate this one next time.
Yeah. Okay, so new college, you get desated or
unsatisfactory.
And then walk us through I want to get to the story of the chief. I love the chief. So just kind of walk us through up to when you meet the chief and so forth.
Yeah. Well, I travel around the country selling drugs, going to dead shows. The harmonic convergence was right around then, 88. I don't know if you remember the alignment of 25,000 year alignment. But anyway, I ended up meeting a guy with a plane. So we flew over to the Yucatan Peninsula to all of those pyramids, just him and me, and just about nobody else around way back then. So we just fly.
What years?
88.
88, okay.
We'd fly you'd just fly right over the jungle, and all of a sudden there'd be a tiny strip, nobody there, nothing there, just a strip, and you have to drop down and land, and that's it. You just leave your plane right there and walk off into the jungle. So it was a pretty cool experience. And he lived in a pyramid himself, so that was, I think, my precursor to maybe meeting the chief. And so I ended up then, as you said, eating watermelon, being a biodynamic or organic at that point. Those guys didn't know about biodynamics. Biodynamic farmer, organic farmer. I think because I already had a sense of that Steiner world, I think that's why that keeps coming out of my mouth, biodynamic, which is interesting. And then
you were eating it all, like the rind, everything.
Yeah. Eating it, juicing it with a champion juicer, so just drinking it as my drink, right? And I found my consciousness altering to the clearer. I found my energy stabilizing and becoming really powerful to work on an 84-acre farm.
How old are you? 1920 at this time?
Yeah, probably 19.
So were you
18.
Okay, were these? Because this is very powerful metaphorically, like looking at this. Like, here's a young man who's needs to purge, like cleanse, purify.
Yep.
And so you're eating like the most water-dense, purifying, food. You're eating the rind, you're eating the seed.
Yeah.
Were you just like spiritually, karmically just drawn to that, or were you cognizant of the need to cleanse and purge?
I don't think I was cognizant of the need to cleanse. I had reapplied to New College and gotten in, so they were opening their arms to have me back, and so I thought maybe I'd go like back, but it turned out to feel backward. And there was something else calling me, and I thought, to tell my parents like I'm off farming, they would have just laughed me out.
Right.
How they had already disowned me anyway because of the whole drug thing, so it couldn't get much worse than that. So no, I wasn't cognizant. What I came to feel is kind of like how blessed I had been to be able to luck into that situation, and notice that what I was experiencing is what I would wish for all humanity to experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't think it was that big of a jump to make it happen. And so I got pretty excited about that. And that's the moment when this guy came to the farm. His name was Chris Whipple. And we used to listen to Kate Bush music all the time because she was big at that point. She wasn't that big in America, but we were definitely always been a Kate Bush fan. She knows what's up. And so we just dropped in deep, and at some point he said to me, "Man, you got to meet the chief." I was like, "Okay, dude, let's go meet the chief," because I was still a dick,
right?
I was definitely still a dick, and it's like super smart, but super stupid. Mm-hmm. That hasn't changed much. Just ask Jared.
Right.
I can't even figure out to make a phone call on an iPhone, for God's sake. But I found out then that the guy who ran the farm also had he gave a watermelon to this guy Whipple, and he goes, "Will you give this to the chief for me?" I'm like, "Oh, kidding me, man? Are you kidding me? Like, what am I in a cult now here? You're in on this too?"
Right.
And he's like, "Oh man, this is an amazing guy." And I had this guy he would hang around New College too. He was a New College guy who ran this farm, independently wealthy. So he had this whole farm and he made beautiful food.
Yeah.
And so I had respect for him. I was like, okay, if Gray respects this guy, I'll humor Whipple. And so I went, and it's just a tiny little hovel. I mean, this whole place is not much bigger than the thing we're sitting in right here. And I walk in, and he's in the center of the room. And I'm just like, I'd never had this experience before of a human being. He just seemed like a mountain to me. Not like a huge mountain, but this mountain of a human being. And as I got closer to him, he said, "Oh, hey," and he's kind of like Santa Claus or something, just like this jovial warmth that it was all embracing. And
was he Native American, like one of the Seminole tribes?
Yeah, he's part of he was chief of the Shawandasi, which they were later called the Shawnee.
Oh, yeah.
And they came from Atlantis over to the Mayan Peninsula, and then moved up to Florida, and then moved up into Ohio. They became what's called the United Remnant Band. They never actually capitulated to the U.S. government. So they never surrendered in treaty, and they ran off into the hills. And so they were very proud people. They're all dead now. He was one of the last.
Oh.
And so I went over to him, and I just, I wasn't much of a hugger, right? But I was kind of just like a tractor beam drawn to this guy. He put his arms around me, and the guy was filled with light, and I'd never had that experience either. So I've had all these drug experiences, but now this is I haven't done drugs for a long time then, but I am completely high from watermelon, which is kind of funny.
Right.
Higher than I've ever been with any drug, by the way. And I recognize, like, this is somebody. This is somebody who knows who he is. And I've never had this experience with any teacher. I never really respected any teacher. And I recognize right away this guy has something to teach me. And so...
Was it something akin to a Shaktipat experience? Like, did you feel a release of spiritual energy, or just being in that kind of warmth and loving, energetic?
I felt more myself and more accepted as me than I ever had before. Like, I was able to see myself more clearly because he was so accepting and so wisdom-filled. There was so much love there that there was space for me to be all that I was.
Wow.
And it wasn't fantastic. It wasn't sensational. It was just like, oh yeah, this is the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Kind of like the watermelon thing.
Yeah.
It was a similar thing. Like, I'd had that physical experience of what watermelon does for me. And now I'm having experience with the first human being where I go, oh, this is the same thing, except it's a human encounter. And so it's that certainty that you have when it's a hell yes.
Yeah.
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 And I knew that whatever this guy has to offer, I would like to experience it. And so then I found out that he did individual councils where he sat together just like this, asked permission of our higher selves to connect and align and balance our energetic centers, and let me know, just basically talked me through what was happening for us as that was going on. And as that was happening, the witness thing happened. I just floated up completely out of my body, but I was still in my body watching the situation. And he named that. He just said, yep, basically you've been in witness consciousness for your whole life, for whatever reason. And now here you are. And so I sort of watched that and watched his spiritual guides behind him, and then watched and realized that he wasn't a physical body anymore. He was a body of light. I have no idea what I look like to him. I would imagine something similar. But again, it was like going to get a cup of coffee. It was not like, oh my God, this is destabilizing or this is amazing. It's like, well, of course this is happening. This is who we are. And that's kind of crazy because the only thing I experienced before that was some Sundays in church or at the synagogue, and that shit wasn't happening. I mean, there was no light being there, no energy that I could see, no transformation that I experienced. It was just, when can I get out of here? When's this over? Yeah.
Well, and then, so you have this, I mean, I don't want to label that a mystical experience, but it was almost like the sense of coming home.
Yeah, let me just give you a little caveat on the mystical thing. So the whole idea of mysticism, as Steiner saw it, is that it's sort of at the moon initiation level. In other words, you're groping around in moonlight trying to figure shit out. His picture and Chief Little Summer's picture was a much more conscious, like sunlight, which means day consciousness. So both Steiner and Chief Little Summer were clearly taking steps throughout the light of day and all the work that they were doing, which was deeply esoteric and initiated. But it didn't come off that way because they were just crystal clear. The mystic is, in a way, trying to approach that state of consciousness, but it's at a level before that day consciousness initiate level. And that's why Steiner never had that picture, because he actually came to the spiritual world through mathematics.
Interesting. So where does your life, what's the direction your life goes there? And like bring us up to, I guess, your first exposure to Steiner and then becoming a scholar of Steiner. What led to that?
Yeah. It's funny. I never imagined or would call myself a scholar of Steiner. I would say I'm a practitioner of Steiner. Okay. It's probably true that I'm a scholar too, because I read Steiner. Yeah. So it makes sense. And I was a scholar, I was a professor. But it's funny, I don't identify with that word. I think it's because throughout the ages, the word scholar, for me, has some pretty piss poor connotations with the absence of bringing humanity forward as a result of scholarly work. Whereas the people who are householders are doing a lot more to spread the actual mood of what it means to be a human being, which is to be spiritual, ironically. But that soapbox aside, I'll get back to it. I was deciding to go back to New College. I had met a girl. She was, I would say she was mystical. She was sort of a fairy. She had a connection to the elemental world, the animal world, the plant world. She was pretty cool. She had been she'd been hit by a semi truck driving her black Mustang convertible, and then a black Mustang leapt out of she was in, I don't know, Sedona or somewhere. Out of nowhere, this horse appears, leaps over her car, hits her hood, busts through the windshield, and dies on the bridge of her nose.
The horse?
The horse.
Wait, while she was being hit by a semi, or this was separate incidents?
No, this was in the same locale, in this area, within the same period of like a couple of months.
How injured was she from the hit with the semi in a Mustang convertible?
Not bad.
Oh, wow. Miraculous.
And again, this is one of those things where it's like, what's going on here? So she gets a settlement from the trucking company, and she spends all of those tens of thousands of dollars, every bit of it, on crystals. They're this fucking big. I mean, they're everywhere. Her room is filled. Her dad owned a big nice Italian restaurant. So she's wealthy girl. And so she had this huge room, and it was very high ceilings, and then built one room out of mirrors all over it, just totally coated, and then shelves in front. And so you walked in, and every part of every one of those shelves was coated with, thousands of crystals. I walked into that, and the pitch was so high in my brain, I just about blew out of myself. I laid down on her bed, and I had the deepest trance I've ever been in.
Wow.
I was like, whoa. So I woke up and I'm like, okay, so, maybe this one has something to teach me, kind of like Chief Little Summer. And when I was with the chief and I said, well, I'm going to go back to school, he goes, you can do anything you want. You got free will, but we would politely suggest that this young lady, Cynthia, would be a good person for you to spend some time with.
Oh, he even said that. Oh, that's wild.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, he doesn't make suggestions. Like this guy left, he did not want to bring any more karma, right, to himself, as you said.
Yeah.
So he left himself completely free, and he would just, in a very gentle way, he might invite something with a question. So to actually go so far as to invite me to look into that possibility, even though my strong intellectual leaning was like still pushing like business, money, bitches.
Yeah.
You know, they all kind of go together in this ugliness that I want to move toward. And there's this just beautiful guy over there going, well, you know, and so I said, okay, dude, you can always go back to school. Listen to this guy. He's, whatever else he has shared about you has been so spot on. Don't be an idiot. So I listened to him.
Was this girl in Florida as well?
She was back in Ohio because I had gone home to see my parents. They were in Ohio. And I met her when I came back up there. And then I came back down to Florida.
Where did this, so just explain to me how this incident, how the horse.
That was before I knew her.
Oh, okay.
So she just told me about it. And that's why she had all the crystals. When I met her, I'm like, how does anybody have this many rocks?
Right. Have you met Jared's brother, Jason Picard?
Yes.
Have you been to his home in upstate New York?
No. But
it rivals it, dude.
Yeah, I'll bet.
I mean, maybe even more so.
Jared himself got quite a few crystals.
Got probably, well, I think it runs in the family now. So.
Well, and you saw those in Cal Callahan's place, right?
Yeah.
Those crystals were from Jared's place over in California.
His brother, Jason Picard,
well, I'm sure there's lots of.
I mean, the amount of statues and crystals is mind-boggling.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. The place hums.
Probably much to his wife's chagrin, right?
I think she likes the crystals from that we spent an afternoon together. She's over the statues. She's like,
she's
enough.
over the statues,
enough.
But she likes the
crystals.
We
have enough. Yeah.
All right. So, Jason, more crystals. Can you trade some of these statues out? Right. Can they do a 2-for-1?
Possibly. Possibly.
Yeah.
So you have a relationship with this woman now?
Yeah. Well, so that's what I did is for a few years, I dropped in, connected with her, and I recognized her connection to the earthly realm was something I desperately needed because part of what I didn't have with that witness consciousness was much of an interest in coming down to the planet because I already saw what goes on here. So I thought, my biggest fear, actually, was that I would lose that witness consciousness. That was my fear, that I would come into the body and all of a sudden it'd be like amnesia, spiritual forgetfulness. And then I had a dream that when I would go to sleep, I would explode out of this universe. I would disappear from this universe and go very far away.
Lucid dreaming?
For my dream time. And so what started happening, though, is I noticed myself not going as far out, like at a certain point being within the grasp of the universe.
Oh, interesting.
In the gravitational pull, and then actually seeing the earth, and then actually seeing trees. And then I had this particular dream where I saw an incredibly tall pine tree, and I moved down to it because I'm flying in all of those dreams. So I'm flying down to it. So I touch the tip of the tree all the way at the top and then climb down the tree upside down until I reach the ground. And then I wake up. And I recognize, obviously, I have this is me coming to the planet and my work can begin and I won't lose that ability to fly. I still have flying dreams and I won't lose it. And so I was able to get over the fear, the ignorance that I would have lost that. So I was with her, and then at a certain point, she was 12 years older, and I was 21, so I was young.
Oh, yeah.
And then we adopted a 1.5 pound baby. She was 1.5 pounds. She was at that time, she came from the Cleveland Clinic. She was a crack baby, so she had 3 holes in her heart, a colostomy, and she had a lot of challenges. We had fostered other children because my girlfriend really wanted to have children, and I wasn't ready. And so then we fostered adults. But then when she got this girl, Felicia, she really wanted to have more babies. And so we took her home from the clinic at like 5.5. 5.5 pounds. She was probably like 2 months old at that point. She was still like this big.
Yeah.
And she had a rough go, screaming, shaking, just nonstop, really, really tough. And again, I saw what Cynthia was capable of doing with a baby, and I saw that I wasn't, that wasn't something that I was interested in. And I'm not sure that it ever would have been.
Right.
And so it was clear that it was time for me to move on. And that's when I met my current wife. We've been together for 35 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So your period of kind of wandering into the wilderness was pretty intense and short relative
and dense. Yeah.
To an overall.
It was probably just about a year, if even that.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was also some other stuff, travels, hitchhiking, meeting people, having experiences.
Yeah. So then do you go back to New College?
No, because I stayed with Cynthia, and then I met Jennifer. Well, she was also in the same area.
Where are you now? Are you in Ohio or Florida?
Yeah, we're in Ohio. And the reason we're in Ohio and we can't move back to Florida is because my girlfriend was the guardian of the Serpent Mounds in Ohio.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
This Crystal girl.
Mm-hmm. My wife, it's funny you say that because she was called Cynthia, but my mom would go, "How's Crystal?"
That's funny.
A little derogatorially.
Right.
Yeah.
So these are those kind of ancient ancestral mounds that are...
Yeah, Atlantean outposts.
Yes.
Yeah. And the idea certainly is that this, in a lot of ways, those who are the original peoples all around the planet lived peaceably in Lemuria even before Atlantis. Then Atlantis, with the technology that was given by well-meaning aliens, was perverted, which just about everything on the planet has been so far, caused a diaspora of those individuals into all of these different places of the world, which is why they maintain such a peaceable and strong connection to the planet, to nature and the different kingdoms of nature.
So, okay, I want to be mindful of time. What's your cosmological view? Because you use like Atlantis, Lemuria, straight into the Mayans, then into Florida with like such fluidity, just like, so I want you to, through your main courses of study and contemplation, like, what's your cosmological view of the world we're living in? Like, where do we live? How did we get here? What's the ordering? Kind of walk us through. I think this is going to be a pretty fascinating subject. So walk us, because it's a little disorienting too, because you have this fluidity to it. So what's your understanding of our cosmology?
That there's no separation. And it's a playground where we get to believe and experience separation. And so that doesn't mean there's no separation. It just means that we get to experience this picture of separation, and the unity is always present, has always been present, will always be, because it's outside of what we can even grasp. It's outside of the stream of time. It's outside of three-dimensional space. These are parameters that we structured, and we can deconstruct them at any time. A lot of people are using medicine to find out that happens. Others can use meditation, and others simply know that, simply can. I don't mean know it. I mean, like many people use that term, like intellectual candy. I mean, have an experience of it. I mean, have access to it, which is not just in the head, it's a whole body understanding, but it's more than that. It's a whole being understanding. It's an awareness. For example, when I met my wife and we looked each other in the eyes and we saw each other as we were in a previous time together in a connection. And we didn't say anything about it. We just were looking for a while. And then finally, one of us had the courage to say, "Are you seeing what I'm seeing?" And well, it depends. What are you seeing? I said, "Well, I see a huge fucking hairy red guy." And she said, "Yeah, that's what I feel like. And I see this beautiful blonde woman." I said, "Yep, we're seeing the same thing." Yeah.
So you had I guess a past life kind of or parallel experience in the presence of your wife the first time you met her?
Pretty soon.
So you were like a Nordic Viking or something along those lines? And
yeah. And one of us lost our lives fishing. And that was a bummer. And so there was a sadness to it, but it also gave us a kind of yearning to be together again and to try again in a certain way. Yeah. But I remember that moment of just sitting. It was her car, her old car, and I was sitting in the passenger seat. It was, heading toward evening, and she was dropping me off in the driveway at 99.5 Byers. I lived in this cute little place in Ohio, and we just, for some reason, just turned toward each other. You know how you get moved to do something, and just started looking at each other, and this beautiful quality of silence that had a kind of a voice to it is the only way I can explain it. It's beyond sacred or bliss. It's really it's ineffable it's like what William James called shusness, where you're just in this space. You're in what some people call spiritual time. And again, everything feels normal. It feels like this is what is supposed to be happening.
Yeah.
So
I had something similar to that on an NNDMT experience.
Okay.
Where I was back in ancient Phoenicia with my wife, like clearly.
Yeah.
In energy form.
Yeah.
And my children were there too. And that I was like this overwhelming sense of gratitude that we get to do this again.
Yes.
That we're meeting each other again.
Yes.
It's really quite fantastic.
It is amazing.
It is amazing.
Yeah.
But this is quite.
So my Weltanschauung or worldview comes from my experiences. It doesn't come from some cosmology.
Okay, so what I'm trying to do is from a narrative standpoint, like if you were writing a piece of fiction and you had to walk us through where we were to where we are.
Okay.
I don't think your mind works this way. Mine does. Yeah. So I'm trying to do something that's not fair to you, but I think maybe more people's minds work a little bit like mine is working with like linear progression.
I'd say you're right.
Then yours is working. Yeah. So just indulge me.
Yeah.
Like Atlantis, Lemuria, Mayans, Serpent Mounds, record ATX, like right here and now.
Yes.
Like what's like between Ra and Steiner, like what's been this in this time space continuum, like where were we and
where are we headed? Or?
Yeah, or like, well, was Atlantis was real? I guess Lemuria was real. Like, what were these societies? Like, can you grasp what I'm kind of like from a narrative storytelling standpoint? Just like what's the cosmology of Ra and Steiner and the things that you studied and made your life?
Okay. So you want me to talk about Ra and Steiner and their cosmologies?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if it's from your personal, because I think, look, the times that we're living in, they're so fucking disorienting right now. They're fascinating. They're wonderful. As a parent, it's terrifying. But like, you know the channel My Lunch Break on YouTube?
No.
Oh, it's awesome. Like literally this guy goes up to like state capitals.
Okay.
And he's like, the Texas state capitol, 1863, the stone came from 700 miles away. It's 8 stories high. There was 4,000 citizens and 4,000 slaves, and it was built in 18 months. How? Or Chicago. The most convincing one is you do Chicago.
Yeah.
And like how, like, we're living in this time, we're like, holy shit, the degree to which we've been lied to recently seems like in front of our face. Like nothing in Chicago makes sense relative to where they had to manufacture, where they had to harvest these minerals and stones from.
Yeah.
The lack of mechanized equipment to lift these things, like nothing makes sense.
Right.
So what I'm trying to do right now, from my own standpoint, maybe is like, how does it somehow make sense? Like, oh, okay, well, there was Atlantis and this is what it was. And then there was Lemuria. And then there was like, there was a parasitic energy that entered and shattered, that caused Atlantis to fracture. And then, that caused a flood. Like what's the story?
I think most of the folks have heard story, right? And the idea is that civilizations that have been on this planet get to a certain level, and then there are I'd say, sort of some neophytes from other planets who get the idea into their loving hearts that they want to provide something to these people. Because what happens is a call comes from that civilization, from a certain number of those individuals that says, we need help. And when that call comes, positive beings respond to that call. There are also beings who offer a call to say, we need some help in order to set this place in order. Because, as you said, it's chaotic. It's out of control. And we need to order this place. That ends up being a negative path. That ends up being a self-love path. And so those two different calls go out. There are individuals who are harmonized toward both sets of those calls. And there's a kind of law of balancing that takes place where when one of those sets of folks comes from somewhere else, who's walked this path that we're on now, in bodies similar or different to this, but the self-consciousness is the unifying factor in the development of what that entity is capable of. Then they try to support with technology, with philosophy, with practices. And those cultures then have perverted those things in all cases. So whether it was in Europe or whether it was in Egypt or whether it was in Atlantis, the only place that didn't really happen was in Lemuria. Lemuria, naturally, there was a tectonic shift, and those individuals had a clear connection to Creator and moved on.
But Lemuria was in this realm that we now consider the Earth.
So Lemuria, to place it in time, would be somewhere around 50,000 years ago, whereas Atlantis was more like 10,000. And so back at that point, humanity had a very different kind of consciousness, a very different kind of physical body, didn't have the kind of density we have, nor did it have the capacity to see all the colors we see now, or to really parse the material world in the way that we can now. We're at this beautiful bottom of the bowl, which means we can see matter better than any human being has ever seen it before. We're that materialistic in our thinking. So there's a gift for that, which means we can perceive things that have never been perceived before. That's pretty cool. And we can also take that sort of resurrection consciousness to turn it the other direction and offer it up to higher hierarchies, beings who have walked before us and who stand ready to support us if we unconsciously or consciously make this call out to say, we could use a little help here, taking the next step in our development. And so the picture from Ra, for example, would be that there's a 75,000 year period where this has taken place, where moving from sort of what he would call second density or animal and plant realm to third density, you move from animals being conscious but not self-conscious to this kind of animal being self-conscious. And that's a 75,000 year period. Lemuria was at the first 25,000 year ending. There are 3 cycles of 25,000 years. And the picture from Ra, like a lot of other cultures that work in this invisible realm, is that we're at the end of that time now. We're at the end of 3 cycles of 25,000 years, and that within the next 1 to 700 years, there'll be a major shift again, which a lot of people call trauma or cataclysm or flood or fire, whatever it is. But really, all that is stinking thinking. It's the lack of harmonious...
What did you say? Snaking?
Stinking thinking.
Stinking thinking.
It's the lack of harmony in our capacity to think together, to think in harmony together as a collective, as a single race, which is what we are, a human race.
So there was the Lemurian culture world, and then what takes place between that and the Atlantean times?
Not much.
Not much.
Yeah. There was a slow progression of those individuals being agrarian and being hunter-gatherers for a pretty long period of time until they amassed enough sort of collective consciousness to decide that again, after that other cataclysm, that they would try again. None of this is conscious, right? This is part of where you just find yourself. These individuals, very few of them had initiate status or this kind of awareness. They were pretty much guided at that point through higher consciousness, because there was not a strong sense of what we have right now, this very strong, individualized, and so-called separated ego or intellect, personality. There was much more of a feeling of collective. And so it was almost like a group of birds being guided to another place to forage or to land in another tree, moving in that with that kind of instinctual awareness, rather than the kind of resolve that we have right now to sit down and talk together.
And then an otherworldly technology enters that accelerates, and we enter the time of Atlantis?
Well, we enter the time of Atlantis, and that culture goes on for quite a long time until they recognize, start to develop consciousness, relationship to crystals and so forth, realizing that, there's a consciousness here that can amplify our consciousness, and we can actually do things. And the hope would be that you use that to build and to create and to join together. And in most cases, it ended up being for destructive purposes. Power over.
I've heard of these like super weapons that were kind of created during those times where.
Yeah.
What's the story with the pyramids and temples? Like, when are they from? I guess the ones in Giza and Egypt and Mexico and Teotihuacan
and down in South America. So again, this would be Ra's perspective that there are three social memory complexes. The social memory complex is what happens when not just you and I get our thoughts and feelings and actions together. I'm talking like completely in sync and completely transparent to each other, but when a whole community and then a whole group of people on a particular planet are able to harmonize at that level. So Ra itself, they are a single unity. And at the same time, there are 6.5 million entities that could separate themselves if they chose to. But at this level, they would have no interest in doing so.
Currently here right now?
Currently available and working with us, mostly through vision now, through dream state, and through kind of daydream inspiration. So when you feel that you get something that inspires you, if you've been calling for that and you receive that could either be Ra or it could be two other social memory complexes that are also working with entities on this planet. One of them was in South America, one of them was in Egypt, one of them was in Atlantis.
Oh, okay.
And so when you have the capacity to be in love and wisdom at such a high level with a crystal or with a plant, then you understand what would be called like infinite rockness. Your consciousness can actually vibrate at the same frequency as the being of that rock, and you experience that rock as a being, and then thought can transport that rock, that living rock, everlasting rock, into place. Some of those pyramids were built for initiation. Some of those pyramids were thought into place for initiation. Both of those things took place. Some of those pyramids were brought into place for healing. Some of them were brought into place for education. And some of them were brought into place to balance the electromagnetic field of the earth.
Was energy produced through these pyramids? So was there like lights and illumination of certain degrees?
Energy is not necessarily produced. It's amplified.
Amplified, yeah, I should say.
Yeah.
So gathered, harnessed, directed.
Yeah. So the top of the pyramid was not gold. That was a bastardization by the elites who decided that we're just going to use these goodies for ourselves. Originally, it was granite. Granite is composed of three things: feldspar, mica, and quartz. The quartz produces energy in relationship with the other two, and that was all that was needed for that pyramid to spiral up the prana, Kundalini energy, whatever you want to call it, intelligent infinity, the white light of creator, that moved up through 4 different spiraling series of energies. So energy was created and could be used for good or for ill. The energy that was used for good for, let's say, healing would be to literally, it's painful to think about, but in a way, dismember your energetic system to allow you to reconfigure it in the more harmonious phantom resurrection body blueprint, if you will. And that was done by what's called a crystallized entity. So the individual who was the Hierophant there had the capacity to see what needed to take place, have absolutely no judgment around it, allow the dismembering energetically, and then allow the student who seeks to heal himself, because the individual who's crystallized can't heal anyone, but can simply create the conducive atmosphere for that to take place. And then healing takes place for that individual and they go on their way. The same takes place for initiation. It's a different process energetically. The same takes place for learning. But the teacher recognizes that she can't teach anything. The healer can't heal. The initiator can't initiate, that it's always sovereign. The individual, herself or himself, does it for themselves.
So what's your daily...
Now we're going to get into physical practices.
Yeah, because I don't know. This might be, I'm such like a brick and mortar guy, you know, like
I love it. It's
like
great.
You show me a body, I know what to do with. You show me, I'm a great cook. I cook professionally. Like I'm very good in the physical world.
Yeah.
Relationships, people, you know, the products I make, you know, like I'm going to have a prayer practice, meditation practice. But you know, the world that we're living in right now with inversion and parasitic frequencies, like I'm very mindful that I don't want my energy stolen, and I want some techniques. So like I meditate in the morning and I hold.
What do you mean your energy?
Well, so for instance, like
you're already fucked. Well, that's an illusion. If you have your energy, it'll be stolen. I guarantee it.
Well, that's wise. So I want to participate in the most harmonious way possible.
Okay.
Mindfully participate. And I've heard, you know, recently on certain things that like even like the Yahweh and the Yahweh constructs, it's stolen energy. It's part of loosh harvesting. You know, I'd exposed this thing that like we get put in negative energy loops and so forth. So I'm always looking for like, how can I least participate in that and most participate in the beneficial, so that I'm a beacon of love and light and God's will and the divine. Yeah. So like I was like hopefully like for some technique pointers, I guess, in a way.
That would be simple. I mean, the greatest protection is also the greatest evolution, and that is that the moment contains love. And the response to every thought, act, or feeling coming from anything else, even yourself, but anything else, that is the response. The response is love. So the skillful application of love. And that's a pretty infinite capacity, because love, it could also be just felt as a kind of working, a kind of spiritual working or intelligent energy. So it's, when you say, you know, my energy, it's infinite energy.
Yes.
It's infinite and intelligent. And so there's no my in that.
Right.
You know, the idea of the infinite is singularity, de facto. Nothing else is possible for infinity. You're already in infinity by saying my energy.
Right.
And you've already separated yourself from the source. You're fucked.
I understand.
Okay.
Yeah.
So recognizing that from a thought level then will affect your feeling level of not feeling worried about being drawn into negativity, and will affect all your actions.
So we're on a continuum. We're not personally the alpha or omega. We're just on a continuum. So tapping into that continuum of love and energy and so forth.
Well, it's interesting because, again, from a certain perspective, you are the alpha and the omega. If we're singularity,
right, okay,
then you were there at the so-called beginning, and you'll be there at the end. How could you not be? How could I not be?
Right. I meant from the egoic standpoint. I mean, I understand that
so you want to look from the egoic standpoint.
Okay, so here's my technique for prayer. So I study with Reverend Beckwith at Agape. trans-denominational spiritual center. So for me is recognition.
Okay.
I recognize the one love, the one light, the one God, the one source. Okay. And then I unify with it. That if there's only one creator, then I am both the creator and the created and the creator. So I recognize and I unify. My prayer is realization. So it's from the I am. And then, but I also, so from there, I also like to invoke my spirit guides, my angels, my ancestors. I do a little thing about claiming my sovereignty, raising my frequency, that I'm here to raise my frequency, claim my sovereignty.
Yeah.
And then my prayer is defined as realization, that it's already done, it's complete. I'm sitting in, resting in, visualizing that which is complete. I then I invoke Archangel Michael. I surround myself with his love and light and energy, and my family, my business partners. I pray for Brain Supreme. I pray for our mushroom grow. I pray for every capsule. I pray for my partners. Just love, just pouring love into it.
Yeah.
And then there's gratitude. I just go into a gratitude cycle.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for this, thankful for that, thankful for this moment, for this opportunity to pray, to commune with spirit, and then release, that it's already done, it's perfect, and I let it go. So that's my the 5 elements of prayer.
So you visualize it. Are you feeling it? Are you living into the mood of it's done?
That's a day-to-day thing that honestly I struggle with.
Yeah, I can feel that. And
sometimes the mind chatter is so much, or the losses, the regrets. Yeah. So in fact, I've found recently that my meditation is becoming harder and harder. So I mostly just do thinkitation or prayer, because the prayer is easier because the language gets me going, and I'll have moments of like waves of light and energy and so forth.
Right.
Sometimes it feels very perfunctory, but I'm like, it's better to be perfunctory about this than to, grab my phone or do something else. So I'll stay in the space.
Yeah.
But, so I was like, as a sophisticated teacher of spiritual principles, you've been immersed in this for a while.
Yeah.
I think you also came here with some level of insight. Like, how do you, like, what guidance do you offer for meditation practice, for prayer practice? Like,
I could offer, I think that I would suggest finding out what draws you into your heart. What is it being out in nature? Is it working out? Is it, being with your wife? Is it a special something you do with one of your children? What gives you that incredible feeling that all is right with the world?
Mm-hmm. Tilt the mic a little more towards you. I'm just getting
sorry.
lower.
I'm sort of.
I think you can tilt.
Leaned over and chilled out here.
I just want to make sure.
The longer I'm just kind of like listening to you. So what gives you that feeling, a deep, deep feeling that just naturally occurs for you? Because what I'm feeling when you talk is you have this incredible intelligence, and the part that hasn't really had opportunity to come strongly into the world is to have that intelligence flow with this heart force that you have. And I think there's been a part of you that's a little bit like my energy, kind of like my thought and my feeling, as if they're not the exact same thing. And this is one of the great disasters that's happening on this planet, is heartfelt thinking is the true thinking, is the thinking of the future, is the way that you're going to feel safe enough for me to look into your heart, to see everything about you, and for us to really have a real conversation, to stop talking about things and to talk directly from them. And so that allows you to drop into that prayer space. Often slowing down will help, making sure that you are in your body, that you're in a place in your home that is a prayer space home, so it's dedicated to it. There is some beautiful altar there with flowers on it, or a picture of your children and your wife, whatever's really special to you. Your logo, it doesn't matter what it is. It matters that it's beautiful to you and that it is deeply heartful to you. And so your mission, for example, a lot of men on the planet in this business realm, Steiner gave a real picture that businessmen who are truly entrepreneurial have the greatest capacity to become self-initiates right now, right here on the planet. Can you feel how that brings together the sort of business corporate world and your deepest heart longing? Imagine what happens when you unite that with your fucking business. Damn. And what happens to your heart? Both of them get fructified, and they both become fructified. They get stabilized in a way that they are stronger because of their unity rather than able to be pulled apart. That's the great challenge of this planet, is duality. And so your capacity to, in that moment where you're feeling separate, to recognize and then to feel. So you're in the realization path. That's great. To embody it is the next step for you. And often slowing down, and this beautiful space that you're in your house with an altar, or being outside in, maybe there's a spot in your yard, or maybe there's a spot you go to that's like a power place for you, or a spot where you've walked through there and all of a sudden the bottom drops out. You're like, all the noise in the system just left me. I'm not having any thoughts right now. Just sit down right there. That may be your spot. It's called the genius loci. There are beings who preside over different parts of Austin, and you'll have more an affinity with one of them than another. And when you're close to that being, they're communicating with you, and that's when the bottom drops out. That's when your thoughts go quiet. That's when all of a sudden you get a great idea. When all those things start happening, you just sit right the hell there in the middle of the path and let everybody else ride their bikes around you. Fuck them. You know, I don't mean that literally. But you're dropping into that spot, and you're becoming more permeable to that, and you now can start to call for it consciously, recognizing this is the peace, this singularity piece that Oppenheimer was looking for and ended up blowing people up instead, right? The singularity is not in some outer contraption. The Atlanteans made the same mistake. It's not in a golden-topped pyramid. We've done that. It's the incredible power is within us, and it's not ours, and it never has been. We're not even borrowing it. We're just gliding along on it. And when you can feel the awe, did you have a teacher or someone that you really felt awe and reverence for, anyone when you were a kid, someone that was really special for you?
I mean, unfortunately, not really. Not as a kid.
Like I said, I didn't either. So I had to cultivate this as an adult. So part of what a child naturally is able to do as an adult, if they have someone like that, even if it's a parent, which is their teacher also, anyone in the world that they can idolize to a certain extent of, I think that's what it's like to be a human being, and that's what I want to be. That sense of awe and reverence and wonder develops in adulthood to this capacity to have this deep feeling for something. And we're neuroplastic, so it's never too late for you, for me, to cultivate this now and to feel what in this world is still so beautiful to me that it just brings tears to my eyes, or it brings me to my knees, or it stops all the chatter. And cultivate that relationship, and then bring that into your prayer life. And also make sure that you're waiting to hear back, because a prayer is a petition. And so if I pray to be as beautiful as that plant and as purified as that plant, right? And then I don't wait for a response, then I recognize it's, first of all, probably not a real plant. But second of all, it's the waiting for the response that develops the relationship with the invisible world. And what prayer is an invisible force.
What's your spiritual practice? I mean, are you, do you have a religion that you most kind of?
No, never had a religion. No, that's anathema to me.
Do you have a daily meditation practice or somewhat? I know you travel and do things like that. What's your routine?
Yeah. Well, when I would say it's very flexible. So it makes sense to have a disciplined path, but also discipline can become rigid and sclerotic pretty quickly. It can lose the kind of spontaneous, unstudied mood that you want to have during prayer and so forth. So there are many paths which do a very strong repetition of what might be called a tone mantra or a word mantra. what I have found myself more connected to is what could be called a thought mantra, which is the capacity for living thinking is, again, this is a sort of the being human premise. This is the foundation for everything. Our capacity to think then moves downstream and determines or at least influences our feeling and then our actions in the world. But oftentimes we're not catching the thought at the level of thinking because it's extremely subtle. But each thought is a movement and it's a relationship with a spiritual being. Having that already in mind, or opening the possibility that could be true. You don't have to believe anything. In fact, I don't believe in belief. What I know is that having a phenomenological attitude, which means an open attitude toward what could be true or what could be possible, an experience I could have, is infinite. And based on that, I don't have to believe anything. Mm-hmm. I'm open to everything. And once I have the experience, I judge based on the experience that I've had. And then I let that accrete over time until it builds a tableau for me. And I have a very clear picture of what my experience is. And it grows corn for me. So that aspect of what might be called a daily practice is I have a daily non-practice, which is that I wake up and I open up and I see what's here for me. Oftentimes, I end up writing for a while because I have ideas that sometimes I've seeded in the time before going to sleep. So an excellent practice for you could be to seed the thought that you would like to deepen the feeling life around your prayer and have that be the last thing you think of before you go to sleep. Ask for your guides and teachers and ancestors to support you in dream time, which is basically teaching time. It's school time. And then the first thing you do when you wake up is to bring that before your consciousness and see what starts to yield fruit for you. Mm-hmm. That's an excellent practice.
So the kind of almost preparatory stages before bed, so that you kind of have a certain momentum.
Yes.
When you first awake.
Even a ritual before bed.
Yeah.
So that you're not on screen time.
Yeah.
So that you're not eating sugar or alcohol. So that you've eaten more at 5 o'clock if you're going to go to bed by, 8 or 9. The idea is that the earlier you can get to bed, the more you have a capacity. This would be Steiner's picture, that when you're at that sort of midnight, it can be a cosmic midnight if you've done the preparation that you need to do before you move into dream time. How do you do that preparation? You reflect backwards on your day. It's called a Rückschau.
Rückschau, yeah. I heard you mention that.
Yeah. And so you're looking, and again, I don't want to move into a place of pedanticism here because it can become very rote and very automatic. It's like, oh, I did this, I did this, I did this. And no, what you're looking for is what you need to learn. You only need to learn that which you need to know. And only you know what you need to know. Mm-hmm. So as you start to look back, you're looking for the thing that you need to learn. Is it an emotion that could be more balanced in the next day that wasn't as balanced as it could have been in an interaction that you had with your wife, with one of your children, with a colleague, whatever? Is it a thought? You've been holding a particular thought pattern in belief, and it's just a story. And so you ferret those things out. You notice what they are with no judgment, and then you course correct in your thinking before you go into sleep. And then seek a time to then get that lesson or that opportunity again the next day, so that you're always reflecting, not to regret, because that's egotistical. You're reflecting in order to set something in course for yourself for the following day. Mm-hmm. And that is a mini initiation for yourself, that when you finally reach the point of death, when you leave this body, you're going to do that on a grand scale and look back through your whole life. Mm-hmm. And if you've done that every day and gotten to the essence of what it is that you need to learn about yourself, man, you're already rocking. Mm-hmm. And what it does for the dream time is your teachers see that you've already reversed the stream of time. That's how you move into the spirit world, because there is no time. And you feel that oftentimes in dreams. Something seems to go on forever, and it was in the blink of an eye. Something else seems like it's in the blink of an eye, and you've realized, my God, I've dreamt all night.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is no time or no space in that particular teaching. And then you come back into the stream of time and space and get to try it out.
How real have like these teachings and experiences become for you or been shown to you in your own dreams or meditations that you've had? Like in different time periods. Like, so when you're talking about Lemuria to Atlantis, have you had experiences where you've felt like you've been there? Or
that's a great question. I don't have any actual interest in those time periods because I'm much more interested in the more recent experiences that I've had, because those are what I've worked up to until now, and what I look for when I look at that experience with my wife, for example, or if you and I were to be silent, look into each other's eyes for a while, it would come up, because I'm looking for what it is I need to learn right now. What do I need to practice? I don't give a shit about what happened. I care about what I can do while I'm in this body tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very practical looking back to say, this is the piece. Ooh, there's a strong feeling there. Let me feel into that feeling. How does that affect what I need to do in the world when I wake up tomorrow? And I'll take that image, that mood, that feeling into my dream time.
How old? You have a son, right?
Yeah.
How old?
He's 14.
14.
Yeah.
Does he play sports?
No.
Oh, okay.
He has Down syndrome and autism, so he's a special little love being. He's a little angel come here to help me out.
Oh, wow.
Keep me sane.
Wow. That's pretty. How did they? I have another friend who has the child has both Down syndrome and autism.
Yeah.
Was the autism a brain injury, or born with both?
No, he's had no of any kind. They're not, and so I appreciate you calling them neurotoxins.
Yeah. Well, you and I I've heard you talk about this. We're really aligned, but I didn't know whether that came from a personal experience or just from
him.
Yeah, being injured, and then you had the epiphany and the realization of what they really are, and so forth.
Oh, I just knew that from the beginning.
Yeah, isn't that funny? I kind of knew that too.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as it hit, it was clear.
Yeah,
it's like, this is. I mean, again, part of why we're looking into history is to see what can we do now based on what's been there. And historians know that there are these micro and macro recapitulations, and they're different because now we're in different bodies and we're having a different conversation. But human beings have encountered each other. We've been on this planet, in my experience, for many thousands of years, had many lifetimes. It makes sense if we're trying to evolve as human beings that we would at least make sure we are in just about every culture that's ever existed in order to have the variety of both fun and absolute sheer terror that exists in all of those communities throughout time. Mm-hmm. I mean, who wouldn't want to be there and do that? I would.
Right.
And it's a pretty rounded education for Earth School. And so that notion of, I'm going back, recognizing that there is no back, that the experience that's there that hasn't been balanced by me is present right in me right now. Mm-hmm. And so that's the reason to look back. And I only look back for what's needed in order to put that tool in my backpack and have more consciousness around what it is that I'm to do tomorrow.
Have you had I'm sure you've seen or heard of the telepathy tapes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where
my son from very young, we thought he just had good hearing.
So just for our audience, the telepathy tapes, please jump in if I'm screwing this up. But
no, you got it.
The telepathy tapes is it's a series of podcasts where they basically discovered that autistic children meet in this area called the Hill, and they have whole relationships and conversations and engagements from this area, and they can kind of go there at will, and then from there they can even communicate with certain non-autistic adult receptors or other receptors.
Yeah.
I saw this incredible story about this woman who started getting communicated from this one child at the Hill and eventually contacted the family, and she translates in a way for this child and has a whole relationship. She'll be driving along and be like, oh.
Yep. Download.
Yeah. What's your relationship like with your son along those lines, like energetically, telepathically?
Oh God, we're two peas in a pod. We're extremely close, and it was again predestined, certainly, to be that way. We had him late. He was a surprise, but he wasn't a surprise because twice in my life I had an individual say to me, once in the Northeast Kingdom, which is over in Vermont, she said, "There's a little boy hovering around you." And I was like, oh shit, because I was in my 20s, and I'm like, I don't want kids, I don't want a wife, I don't even want to take care of a cat, so no. Right. What else do you have to offer? And I deep sixed that one. And then it came back around when I was a professor of pre and perinatal and somatic psychology, and a woman said to me, "Are you pregnant?" And I just thought, well, that's the weirdest question ever. I'm a dude, And then I realized, oh, right, I'm a pre and perinatal psychologist. Right. She's saying, and I said, no. And then a month later, she said, "Are you pregnant yet?" And I said, no. And she said, "You will be." And what I had said to my wife is, I'm never going to have kids. Never going to get married. But, what I would be willing to do is, because I'm an open person, even though I'm saying I have no interest in it, I'm not really saying never, I'm saying I have no interest in it. Like I have no interest in Lemuria unless it has some kind of connection to what I need to do tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Why? Otherwise, it's just sort of spurless. If someone tells me that someone is coming to meet me and wants to come and meet me, and if I get that clear picture from someone, then I would start to be open to it. Well, the first time it happened with Helen, this seer, I just completely disregarded it. But the second time I was like, huh. And then I put a couple other parameters in place, because I said, if God tells me that this being is coming and it makes sense in my life's journey, and if financially I can do it, which I was in a place financially where I could support her not to work, because I'm not going to have daycare raise a child for me, then I would be open to the possibility. So when those things were happening, and there was one more thing that needed to be put into place, and it was, then I said, clearly, I'm an open individual. I set these parameters, and this makes sense. And so he came when we were about 43 and then 44. And my wife, because he had Down syndrome, they have low tone, so they don't press out of the birth canal. They just kind of hang out and go, oh, it's nice and warm in here. Mm. And so she was just pushing until she got engorged, and then she had to have an emergency C-section. And this crazy, lived in Santa Barbara at that point. That's where I was a professor. And this crazy situation occurred where they said she couldn't come unless she was under her own power, which is the most bizarre thing I've ever heard.
The hospital said?
Yeah. It's really bizarre. So but again, some of these things that happen that are so bizarre, you realize in hindsight, these got set up. These got orchestrated actually for a purpose. So what happened is then they put him in the NICU, but there was no medically substantiated reason for that. It was just a cover your ass moment. But I ended up being in there with him all the time. So they had him in a little box, and I had I could stick my finger through it, and he could put his hand. So we bonded energetically, and the mother didn't bond energetically. And that was certainly predestined.
Interesting.
So we have this incredible connection where it's difficult to understand his speech, and there are a lot of times when he doesn't, but he is speaking all the time, and he's hearing all the time. Mm-hmm. And so I ended up being a president of an autistic, a 24/7 autistic facility for a number of years, and working with young, often males, about maybe 18 to 30 years old. And so, yeah, there's a reason that's in my life. I think the biggest reason is because that's where I'm super clear that we're moving because I've had enough experience with telepathy with individuals, whether it's actually understanding the thoughts or whether it's deeply communing on a feeling level, to know that that is where we are moving. And it scares the shit out of a lot of people because they feel that, like you said, my energy, other people might say my thoughts or my feelings.
Right.
I don't want to share if I'm masturbating with 6.5 million other people right now. And it's like, I get it.
Right. What level can he, how much parenting needs to happen for you guys these days? Like as a 14-year-old, how much constant care does he need? Or
he'll be with us for his life.
Okay.
Yeah. In all likelihood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you say moving that direction, do you mean just moving there with the telepathic capacities, or?
Well, that's one aspect
from like physically or the physically like autistic.
You mean us as a race?
Yeah.
We're already there, brother.
Well, I know
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's really autoism. It's the shadow side of an individuality or sovereignty, a sense of agency. It's this feeling of being isolated and shut up in the self, and that I have to do it if it's going to get done. This strong sense of the individual who actually thinks he's free, but is more unfree than ever.
What's your take on? So this happened. You had the conscientious birth and pregnancy, I'm assuming, and so forth.
Sure.
And so
beautiful pregnancy, every moment.
Oh, great.
Because we did no testing whatsoever.
Yeah.
We had a midwife who had already delivered 3,000 babies.
My wife and I, the same thing.
Yeah.
We might have had the same midwife. So
Mary Jackson in Santa Barbara.
We had a woman a Sikh woman in Los Angeles who was amazing. Guru Dev, I believe her name was. Yeah, both our kids, home births, both of them.
Yeah.
No vaccines, breastfed, family bed. We did.
Kangaroo care.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did as the best we to our capacities at the time. But when when a child is autistic because of vaccine injury, like where does that fit in like the soul's path, the soul's lineage? Because I've heard some people say that these are the not magenta. What's that color?
Indigo.
Indigo. These are the indigo children and so forth. I'm like, but they were injured. They were injured by like an outside nefarious force that knows what it's doing and has some intention to it. So like, but also having an autistic child, like what's your take on that? What is autism kind of really about?
Well, my experience of many of these individuals, and again, we can't generalize because each one of us is unique, but many of these individuals have taken on a particular path. In the cases of those who choose not to learn the language, for example, in other words, non-speaking individuals, are much more able, when they don't drop down into sort of what I would call the Tower of Babel of 700 different languages that are used on this planet, they stay in a unified language, which is the original language. There was one language. These individuals have the capacity to remain at that level by choosing a life where they will not be able to speak. There are ways to make that happen, and the neurotoxin is certainly one of them. There are other ways, and so it's not 100% the case that individuals are injured by the toxin. There are other ways to end up not speaking. There's an individual called Caspar Hauser that you could look up that was placed in a box where he couldn't stand up for most of his young life and never spoke. And it's a fascinating. Yeah, it was terrible. Jeez. Right? Just like the German king, I think in the 11th century, decided to do an experiment in the orphanage not to feed the children at certain times, and inadvertently they ended up being sort of not touched either. And it turned out they didn't die from lack of food. They had enough nutrition, but the lack of touch killed them all. And that's when we realized, not a good thing not to touch each other as human beings. We'll actually die. So we do these aberrations in the human world. It's really quite bizarre, but we have this intellectual, experimental frame of mind that doesn't have a heart connected to it. Mm-hmm. These individuals have, in most cases, tremendous feeling, tremendous capacity for to transform suffering and even to ennoble it, and they're showing us, they're giving us the capacity that it's like, wow, if these so-called brain injured or bodily injured human beings have this capacity for telepathy and we're healthy human beings, what do you think we can do?
Yeah, what are we capable of? Yeah. That's quite something. Well, Edmund, thanks. That was, I feel like I got to go get myself smarter for our next conversation.
Or maybe just more get that feeling life cooking, because you already got a lot of brains, brother.
Yeah.
I think it is just adding. It's a balancing. A lot of times individuals feel like they need to get smarter, but it's actually just balancing another energy center.
Yeah.
And once you do that, you realize, I got all the brains I need. I just need to give myself a little jump start on the heart or emotional level or power level or whatever it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll link to you and your course with Jared, which I'm excited about. I think great things. There's still some openings for the February. Are you capping it at a certain amount of students?
Yeah, we'll probably. I think we had 25 or 7 or something the first time, and I don't think we want much more than that.
Okay.
So it'd probably be 30 would be the top.
Yeah.
But it needs to feel intimate, and it does.
Yeah.
People need to feel safe to share their failures as well as their successes, because you can't grow. You don't learn by knowing it. You learn by failing and going, wait a minute, what's not happening here? That's called learning. Right. But it takes being vulnerable on it, and we have a lot of love and acceptance for everybody. And we wouldn't want a production. You have 50 people.
Yeah.
No, that's not happening. I think 30 is even a lot.
Yeah.
So somewhere between the 20 to 30 mark is the sweet spot.
Okay. Well, we'll put all the links in the show notes. Thank you so much. I'm so glad that we got to meet, and thanks to Jared for the introduction. So great conversation. You're a fascinating human being. So keep up all the good work, man.
Likewise. Pleasure to be with you.
Thanks, everybody.